The adults led the children through the cemetery. There were headstones as far as the eye could see, and a crumbling mausoleum leaning precariously across the path. Weeds had grown over most of the burial plots. None of the cemetery's lamps were working, so the group had to rely on the bluish light of the full moon. It gave everything and everyone a ghostly quality. "I cannot guarantee the tail will take you back home," the older Daphne said. "In fact, it could put you into an even more dangerous situation." "What could be more dangerous than running from dragons all day long?" Sabrina said. "Appearing in the past during the witch trials for one. Imagine popping up in a Puritan camp and being burned at the stake. Or you could be sent further into the future when my sister and I are dead and there's no one to protect you from the Scarlet Hand. So we could step through the tail only to find a hungry Tyrannosaurus Rex on the other side?" Sabrina asked. "No, T-Rexes weren't native to North America," her older self explained, "but you could step through and find yourself in an ice age thousands of years in the past, or far into the future on the day the sun goes supernova. This isn't a ticket on the Metro North train. We don't know where you end up." "Then this is too dangerous," Granny Rhoda said. "Rhoda, we know we can't stay here," Charming said. "If there's a chance to get back and make things right, I'll take it. I can't speak for the girls, but I'm going through." "We'll take our chances too," Daphne said. Sabrina looked to her sister, surprised by her assertiveness, but nodding in agreement. Little chance was better than no chance at all. "The event should take place within moments," the future Daphne said. "Are you ready?" Everyone nodded. "So, where's it going to happen?" Charming said impatiently. The future Daphne took a small black orb out of one of her pockets. It shimmered, and soon Daphne was shimmering as well. "Directly above the grave," she said, pointing at a tombstone. Charming's face blanched. He walked to the grave reluctantly, as if it pained him to stand near it. Sabrina and Daphne joined him, unsure of what had caused the change. Then Sabrina saw the name on the granite headstone, Snow White. Daphne gasped. "They killed her," Charming said. "The Scarlet Hand killed her." "Why?" Charming shook his head miserably and grabbed Sabrina and Daphne by the arms. "If we get back, we have to change this. We have to change everything we can." "We will," Sabrina said, surprised by his impassioned demand. Just then, a black cloud covered the sky. It churned like an angry whirlpool, quickly forming a tornado. The abrupt change in the sky was startling. "That's it!" the older Daphne shouted. "It's coming!" Charming knelt down and caressed the granite as if it was Snow White's delicate face. "Take care of yourselves, girls," the older Granny Rhoda said as the cloud got wider and uglier. "And take care of each other," the grown-up Sabrina said. "You too," Daphne shouted over the wind roaring in their ears. "Well, Rhoda, am I interrupting another tender moment?" a voice said in a loud growl. The group turned to find the wolf rushing at them. "I hope you don't mind. I brought some friends." From the horizon, Sabrina spotted what appeared to be a small army. They marched toward the group, holding spears, bows, and arrows and swords. On each of their chests was a horrible mark the girls had seen many times, a blood-red handprint. It was the army of the Scarlet Hand. The future Daphne reached into her overcoat and took out a wand. She turned it on the wolf, and a shockwave came out so powerfully it sent the beast flailing backward over the high trees. Unfortunately, it did nothing to stop the approaching soldiers. "Sister," the future Daphne started, but a blonde woman was already leaping into action. "I'm on it," the older Sabrina said. Puck swooped down, scooped her up, and flew her straight toward the approaching soldiers. The two disappeared into the throng, and moments later, Sabrina could hear the sounds of clanging swords, groaning men, and Puck's cheers and laughter. Sabrina heard something zip through the air and saw an arrow land only inches away from her foot. Another arrow whizzed past and hit a nearby tree. She pulled her sister close and looked at Charming and the future Daphne. I hope this is going to happen soon. The future Daphne raced to Charming's side and pointed to her face. Make sure that Nottingham pays for this. Sabrina looked at the ragged scar on the woman's cheek. She hoped that the rough winds had prevented young Daphne from hearing the terrible conversation. I will, Charming shouted. Sabrina had a million questions, but she never got a chance to ask them. At that moment, the world dissolved right before her eyes. Chapter 7. Sabrina scanned her surroundings. She was lying in the suddenly well-manicured Ferryport Landing Cemetery. The moon was in the sky and her sister and Charming were next to her. She took a deep breath and waited for the sound of an approaching army to break the silence. After a few moments, all she could hear were crickets chirping in the grass. She sat up and took a deep breath, enjoying the clean, crisp air in her lungs. She knew they were home. Charming sat up and rubbed his eyes. He looked up at the sky and turned and looked behind him. Snow White's gravestone was gone. In fact, the trio was lying in an unused portion of the cemetery. I think we're back, Daphne said. It appears so, Charming replied, though what day it is still presents a problem. Sabrina smiled and scanned the horizon. She spotted a thin trail of smoke rising into the clouds. Well, let's go ask someone, she said as she scrambled to her feet. She helped Daphne and Charming up and then marched into the direction of the fire. They walked through the forest until they found an old-fashioned log cabin with a thick stream of smoke drifting out of its chimney. Sabrina's heart froze, convinced that they had returned to the days of the American frontier, but then Charming pointed out the fancy new sports car parked in the driveway. We're back where we're supposed to be, he said. That's the latest model. I had one on reserve before I lost my job. Charming pounded on the cabin's door, demanding a ride to town, but he only managed to terrorize the homeowner, who hid and swore he'd call the police if the filthy man and his ragamuffin children didn't get off his property. Sabrina was so angry she could have kicked the prince. If he just knocked like a normal person and asked nicely, the three of them might have already been on their way back home. Apparently, 3 months in a doomsday future hadn't stripped Charming of his sense of entitlement. Then at least tell me what day it is, Charming demanded. I'm calling the cops right now, you lunatic, the man shouted back. So they were forced to walk. Sabrina's feet were already killing her from her previous trek into town. As for Charming, he was mostly quiet. He spent much of the trip attempting to make his tattered clothing and ratty hair presentable. Several hours later, the trio arrived at Granny Rhoda's. The house was a very welcome sight, but Charming stopped the girls before they could run inside. We should get our story straight, he said. Sabrina was stunned. What story? We went to the future. We need to warn everyone about what is going to happen. Child, are you really going to go in there and tell everyone you love that they are going to have tragic futures? Your uncle, mother, Candace, a savage beast? It is kind of a downer, Daphne said. But what choice do we have? You have the choice to say nothing, Charming said. Listen, you have to trust me on this, because I've had a lot longer to think about what I'd do when I got back than you two. The three of us are Snow things. I know exactly how Snow dies. I know who kills her. If I tell her word gets out that she knows, I can't prevent the killer from changing his plan. But if I can stop the murderer on the day it occurs, I can't stop it from ever happening. You can do the same thing. Do you understand? I don't know, Sabrina said. We need to tell them. Together we can all work on it. Sabrina, it's best if we keep this to ourselves. We can walk in the shadows. We can fix things without anyone knowing. Sabrina looked into Charming's eyes. They were filled with worry, but she could tell. Oh, but she could tell that he truly believed that sharing what they had seen could lead to bigger problems. Should he trust him? Charming had always been a bit underhanded, and it was no secret that he disliked her family. But he had always been honest. Daphne and I can't fix the things that happen to our family on our own, Sabrina said. You won't have to, Charming replied. I'm going to help. Together, we're going to fix everything we can, including waking up your parents. I have resources that can help make that happen. I can also give the two of you all the time in the world to find those stolen items. We have to fix everything, girls. Everything. But we can't let anyone get in our way, even if they mean well. Sabrina, you have to trust me. I don't know if I can, Sabrina said. Fine. Go in there and tell that fairy boy of yours that you are married to him in the future, Charming said. Or I can for you if you're so set on sharing. Sabrina stopped in her tracks and turned to the former mayor. You wouldn't! If we tell everything. The former mayor said she could already feel her face turning red with embarrassment. Charming laughed. How does that song go? Sabrina and Puck, sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes love. Sabrina watched as her sister started to join the song. Shut your traps, she shouted at both of them. Fine, we'll do it your way for now. Charming nodded. Very good. It's rare to meet a grip that is so reasonable, and I've known quite a number of you. Just then, the door flew open, and Granny and Uncle Jake rushed outside. They huffed across the lawn and wrapped Sabrina and Daphne in bear-like hugs. Elvis followed, knocking Daphne to the ground and covering her in sloppy kisses. Leave, Lisa. Oh, thank goodness, the grandmother cried. We've been looking for you for hours. The happy reunion didn't last long. Mr. Cairns raced across the lawn and snatched Charming off the ground with one of his clawed hands. If you have touched a hair on their heads, so help me. Mr. Cairns, he didn't hurt us, Sabrina shouted. Put him down. Cairns ignored Sabrina's plea. Where did you go? We got lost. Cairns scowled. If you had gotten lost, I would have found you. Well, I found them, Charming added as he fought to free himself. Rather, they found me wandering in the woods, and I helped them get back. Now put me down, you filthy mongrel. Cairns turned to Granny Rhoda. The old woman nodded, and he set the prince back down on his feet. Where have you been? Granny asked Charming. You've been missing for 3 months. My family has torn this town apart looking for you. Snow is out of her mind with worry. You should call her right away. Charming shook his head. I wanted to get the girls home safely. I must be going. Where? Sabrina said. She's right, pal, Uncle Jake added. You lost your house when you lost the election. The Queen of Hearts lives there now. Technically, you're homeless. Oh, Charlie said as he stared off at the horizon. Sabrina couldn't believe what she said next. You can stay with us. Granny gasped but forced a smile. Then she put her hand on Sabrina's forehead. Are you feeling well? That seems to be the end of this video. I'll see you later.